ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਏਸ਼ੀਆ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਜੀਵ ਤਵਨ ਦਾ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਨਮਸਕਾਰ, ਆਦਾਬ ਦੋਸਤੋ। ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਪਾਰਟੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ। ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਰੂਬਰੂ ਕਰਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਔਰ ਨੋ ਯੂਰ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਹਨ Conservative Party ਦੇ Brampton East ਦੇ candidate Ramona Singh. Ramona, welcome at Prime Asia.
Well, thank you for having me on board. Sat Sri Akal, Namaskar, Assalamu Alaikum. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Ramona, why you're such a sweet person, very nice person, why you've joined the politics?
Politics, that's a great question. I'm actually also a very competent person, and actually my first election was when I was in grade 6, when I was 10 years old, so I've been organizing, so this would be actually my 6th election going forward, right? So we're ready to make sure that we bring change to Canada, and it's many reasons I'm running. I mean, it's important to make sure that our country is a safe country, it's a prosperous country, it's a country that I immigrated to, my family did, so I mean, that's my mission, and especially for Brampton and as well as for the rest of Canada.
I know probably you have studied from London School of Economics, is it right?
No, I actually worked in London, but all my formal education has been here in Canada.
In Canada. Okay, so can you tell details about your education, your experience, your work, so that our viewers, they know about you?
Absolutely. So growing up, I actually wanted to be a police officer, and I went to college for police foundations, and I realized I love law. I just don't necessarily want to enforce it. So I went to university, Carleton, and got a bachelor's in criminology and criminal justice with a concentration in law. I was fortunate enough to work for Correctional Service of Canada when I was actually in school, and then worked for a few years afterwards, and as a federal government employee. So it gave me a lot of exposure to be able to do that, and it was exactly what I had studied. And then I moved on and actually came back here and worked for the family business, which was at the time manufacturing, wholesale and retail. So we had many retail stores that I was running the small business operations of. And then I said to my parents when I was about 25 years old, I said, hey, I want to get some international experience. And so I got my first job in London, England, which is where I think we got the whole London aspect of it. And I joined an industry in telecommunications. I accepted a very low wage to start with, but I knew that it was for the experience, and I worked my way up. I worked for 2 German companies, still in telecoms, 1 Dutch company and a Malaysian company that I got into fintech, which is mobile money transfer, your ability to send money overseas to somebody's handset or to somebody's account with just your cell phone. So, which is the emergence of telecommunications and the financial industry. And then after my travels and being able to travel to 40 countries, which I was very fortunate to do, I came back to Canada, and I realized I was one of those people that, had to leave the country to, get a very career-oriented to get the experience level that I wanted to. But coming back here, I realized the telecom industry is very small, and became a small business owner myself, still in telecommunications, doing a lot of work actually in market research, and that's how I also got involved in political campaigns from municipal, provincial, and federal. I worked on the Central PC campaign last year as well, and so here I am.
Okay, so you mentioned that you worked at Correctional Services.
Yes.
If you talk to the people here in Canada, in Brampton, in Ontario, anywhere, one of the biggest issue is safety, security. We had so many shootings. 2 weeks back, we had 14 shootings on the weekend. So what do you think, where our justice system is failing, where our police is failing, and if you become Member of Parliament, what you will do to make our cities, to make our Ontario, and to make our country safe?
Okay, absolutely. So I want to say something very clear, that the police are not failing. The police need funding and tools to do their job. So they're doing the best that they can. What is failing our system is our Prime Minister. Under this Liberal government, we've seen minimum sentences removed from gun-related crimes. What does that mean? That means that when somebody gets charged, when the police do their job and they charge somebody for a gun-related offense and they go in front of a judge, the judge no longer has a minimum sentence. So before it was, whether it was 2 years or whatever the case is, somebody now they're going in and out of the correctional system like a revolving door. People are coming back out into the community and reoffending. And working for Correctional Service of Canada, what we did was actually worked for the employability aspect. So we had 5 for Corcan, which was a division within Correctional Service of Canada. We had 5 lines of businesses, which was from manufacturing to construction to textiles to services. And what we did was we put offenders to work. So anybody who had grade 10 education, they were able to go to work and then get the certificates, get the money they needed because they were getting paid
Do
for
you
it.
think that we need to change our criminal code also something?
Well, that's the jurisdiction of the federal government. So as your MP, yes, we need to update our criminal code. Actually, look at the massive changes that this Prime Minister has made under his government and be able to update it, because people are not afraid to commit a crime or reoffend.
So what you will do if you're elected member of parliament, what suggestions, what advocacy, or what your party will do to change the criminal code?
Absolutely. So some of the concerns that I hear about from my constituents, there's 30,000 doors, is there's break and enters. There's been so far no funding. We've had funding for guns and gangs and crime, but nothing for break and enter, which has been, to have that sort of invasion in your home is significant. And we actually don't have anything for victims before they become a victim. So when it comes to self-defense, right, there is no legislation for how can you defend yourself without committing a crime. And then, of course, being able to look at what the victim's needs are, which actually under the Conservative government, that's been actually one of the best things that we did.
So you also worked a bit in the telecommunication industry. So if we look at our country, the Canada, it has the highest cost of having a cell phone, internet, all that stuff, in comparison to other countries, whether it's the US or many other developed countries. So what do you think should be done in our telecommunication sector to change so that we get the competitive prices in comparison to other developed countries?
Absolutely. I think that's a fabulous question. I worked a long time in telecommunications, and we do pay the highest rates. I'll give you an incident where in other countries, if you get a long distance call or if you get a text message, the sender pays for it. In Canada, for the longest time, the receiver was also paying for it. So the telecommunication industries were double dipping. And what they do is they fix their costs where you can't really go to another one to get a better deal. I do believe in a fair and open market. As a fiscal conservative, I believe in supply and demand, and I believe that we need to allow more entrants into the market that's always when they can offer the best prices for the best services, and of course take a look at it to reduce the rates. I mean, it's becoming absolutely unaffordable to have just basic access to internet.
Canada has a universal health care. Some people are saying that people should even pay for their prescription drugs and other things by their health card, not by the credit card. What is your take on that?
Well, I think that's it's a great idea in a sense where we want to make life affordable. We're seeing that life hasn't been affordable, but with every great idea, we also have to look at the practicality of it and how operationally you can implement it. This was a plan that the Liberals have talked about recently, and they brought it up in their plan in 1997 and then in 2004. So nothing was done. But when you look at the operational aspect of it, there's a 3% transfer payment that's done from the federal government to the provinces, and if you wanted to have a universal plan, which is for the entire country, a national plan, then we need to take a look at the transfer payments, because it would be different for every different province, because they have their, so Alberta, for the longest time, you could get certain things covered under their healthcare that you couldn't here. So we either have to make it more expensive to match the dollar amount, or some provinces have to accept a little bit while other ones don't, and the significant difference could be even hundreds of dollars to be able to match that. So I think we need to find a practical solution to it before
when
we
we
say.
go to a hospital, we see the patients, they are in the hallways, they are sitting on the floors, they wait for the doctors for hours and hours.
Yeah.
Why not? We should have a private healthcare system also, so that those who can pay and they want to pay and they want a quick service, so they go to the private sector, and in that process, all the resources which are available to the public, so they are available to those who are have-nots.
Well, this is a jurisdiction under the provinces, and here's what I would say. As your MP, I will advocate for what I hear my constituents say. If this is something that I find majority of Brampton East wants to have happen, then that's something I'd advocate for. But you're right, there is hallway healthcare, and from my understanding how that's been created is that it's actually the billing that the doctors get, where they come out of med school with a massive, educational fee, and they then, what happens is, instead of going to a department where actually, I've seen this actually in Scarborough, where it's a one-stop shop where you can actually get all your medical checkups, everything in one building without having to be rushed to emergency, because everything now seems to be refer to emergency, refer to emergency for just minor things. I've had a few incidents where I had a rash or I had a breakout or I had an allergy, whatever it was, and they send me to the emergency. So we need to be able to make sure that the doctors are able to build the right way to be able to send people to the right places as opposed to just pushing them all into the hospitals as well.
Take another aspect of the healthcare, which NDP is saying that we'll cover dental, we'll cover eyes and everything from head to toe. What's your position? Should it be covered or not?
I know that when it comes to many members of the community, they do need, like especially seniors, when it comes to going to a chiropractor, when it comes to dental, all that is under the jurisdiction of the provinces. And I know that this government itself has talked about dental care for seniors for certain income. But here's the thing about when it comes to promises from certain political parties that will never get a chance to become and form government. It's very easy to make all the promises that sound very idealistic without a practical solution, without a costed plan.
So you think that NDP has no chance to be in the power?
It's not just my opinion. Like in the history of Canada and all of our elections, the NDP has never formed government federally, right? The only time it formed government provincially, it was a disastrous way that what happened to the province of Ontario. So it's very easy to have all kinds of promises, but if you cannot meet your promises, what good is that promise really?
Okay, so let's come to another important issue that's called immigration. So how a conservative government, if comes to power, will do things differently than the Liberal government, the way they have done. So what are the policies you're going to follow, your leader and you as an MP will advocate?
Absolutely. Our leader has actually put out that we'll have a system, immigration system that is fair, compassionate and orderly, a process that is comprehensible, that everybody knows what it is, as opposed to what you see today where our immigration system has been used like an auctioning tool, for different countries, for different segment of the population. And so this is going to be revealed obviously in the costed platform that us as well as the Liberals will reveal when the writ drops, which is next month.
So some people say that so many people, they are coming from United States and that's a safe country, so they come and go for a refugee claim. Thousands of people are coming. So why can't we have a fence to stop it so that they cannot enter?
So you don't actually need a fence. It's a loophole in the agreement between the United States and Canada that if they come across a non-entry border, which is an illegal border without an immigration customs officer there, we have to accept them for an asylum claim. That is just a loophole in the agreement that we can actually close. We've seen this, the Liberal government hasn't done anything for the last 2 years about it, and it only started after that famous tweet of the Prime Minister that said everybody's welcome, we accept all, and what that's done is it's created a 71,000 people backlog, which is now estimated to take about 5 years to process all the asylum seekers that have crossed the border illegally.
So the next question is, what kind of earth we are going to give to our children, to our new generations? That's a concern for everyone, and scientists overwhelmingly saying that carbon emissions, they are dangerous. What's your party's position? I know they're talking about removing the carbon tax, but don't you think that this will lead to more carbon emissions?
Great question. Conservatives agree that the environment is at risk, that we do need an environmental plan, and we have actually agreed under the leader Andrew Scheer of the Conservative Party that we're committed to meet the Paris Agreement. What's interesting is that after Justin Trudeau claimed office, got into office after 2015, he actually made the commitment of what under Stephen Harper was about 30% less emissions by 2022. So this Liberal government hasn't actually come up with a commitment that was different from ours. The only difference is that their climate plan is a tax plan. And so what happens? So you have right now 4 cents on the liter that's been added, right? And so 92% of it actually is you and I, you driving your kids to school, you going to work. 8% of it is only going to the bigger polluters, which are industries that are actually polluting. So that's actually an unfair balance of who they're targeting for this carbon plan. And then they're telling you afterwards, since I still have to drive my vehicle, I don't have LRT, I don't have a subway, I don't have any other means of getting around because they haven't given me the infrastructure that I need. But then they're saying that after I pollute, they're going to give me my money back. So A, it hasn't changed my behavior. I'm paying a tax that I'm supposed to get back on the back end, and it's only taxing me, not the actual polluters.
My next question is, you're a very fair person, very fair politician, talk very sophisticatedly, very intelligent. My question now is a little tricky, so
Sure.
answer it carefully.
Okay.
Tell me 3 good things done by Right Honorable Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. I know you are contesting from Conservative, so you have to tell 3 things which he did good.
3 things that he's done very well. I would say that he was able to get a lot of youth to vote in the last election. He brought out voter base that didn't exist. That was amazing, because every challenge of a political party or a politician is, how do you get more people to vote? How do you get more people involved? And I think that was great. I think it was nice that he had, many different. He was able to get candidates from all walks of life. Some very qualified ones that have done great job in their ministries, and some maybe that disappointed, but at the end of the day, he had a good lineup of candidates that I would say that ran. And then another third thing that he did well, I think, is that he stepped out a little bit different back in 2015 when he said that he was going to invest back into Canada, whereas we found that the other 2 parties were talking about, budgets where he said, well, it's cheap to take a loan and let's invest back into Canada. He didn't keep those promises, but it sounded good for the average everyday person who wanted to get ahead.
Justin Trudeau says that he basically was working to save 8,000 jobs in the case of SNC-Lavalin. What's your take? Was he really saving the jobs?
Well, here's the thing. I think that if he really cared about jobs, he would take a look at Alberta, who's lost 120,000 jobs since the last election, and he's been consistently, because they don't have jobs. They're no longer working, in the oil and energy sector, and he's consistently passed legislation to prevent them from going back to work. And what that's done is Albertans still have to make transfer payments to the rest of Canada, but they cannot work. And so they've been in disaster situations with foreclosures. So if jobs are really the matter, let's look at the whole of Canada. And 120,000 jobs is very significant, as opposed to jobs within your own riding, in your own province, before a provincial election that was happening.
When I talk to the people, and they talk about the Conservative Party, so they have very big hopes. But the moment they talk about the Doug Ford, they say that we can't trust the Conservatives because he did education cuts, he did health cuts. So how you as a Conservative look at Doug Ford as a Conservative Premier of Ontario?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Doug Ford won. He won majority with 4.4 million people voting, and what they did was they voted against the Liberals. That's what happened. Liberals have lost party status. They've not been able to claim it, and they're down to 7 seats, I think, today. Why? Because they ran this province for 15 years of mismanagement. Did you know that this province is in debt by $350 billion? Our interest payments are $1 million every hour.
To cut you short, because we have very few seconds, people are saying that the Conservative Party will sink in Ontario because of Doug Ford. What do you think?
I don't believe that to be the case. This election is projected on the 905s, and me being a 905 seat, people are very upset with Justin Trudeau.
You are being strongly supported by our former Brampton Mayor, Susan Fennell.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and there were so many controversies about financials and all those other things about her. Isn't it a concern for you that taking a mayor with your side who is not very well liked by the Bramptonians?
So my objective for this election is to get as many supporters on my side to win, right? So it's at the end of the day, it's about how many people vote for me, for the Conservative Party, and for me as a candidate. And when it comes to the previous mayor who served 14 years, longest serving mayor, I've had some great insight about municipal politics. Because at the end of the day, Bramptonians want to know what's going to happen for Brampton. What are we going to do? And having that wealth of knowledge in terms of what Brampton has received, what Brampton didn't receive under which government, what can we do different, that's only going to make me better, not only answering your questions, but also the constituents that I knock on your doors.
All right, so बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन असी रमोना ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛੇ और उन्होंने अपने बड़े बेबाक तरीके ਦੇ ਨਾਲ आंसर ਦਿੱਤੇ. We have couple of more seconds here. Ramona, if you want to say anything to the viewers of Prime Asia, you have 30 seconds.
It's always great to be here on Prime Asia. I am Ramona Singh, your Conservative candidate. Election's about 50 odd days away. If you'd like to join the campaign, or if you have any questions for me, you can call me at 647-400-7000 or email me at info@ramonasingh.ca. That's RAMONASINGH.ca. I'd be happy to hear from you. I'd be happy to come visit you. I'd be happy for you to get joined in this election.
Ramona, thank you very much for coming to Prime Asia.
Thank you so much.
ਸੋ ਦੋਸਤੋ ਇਹ ਸਨ ਰਮੋਨਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਈਸਟ ਤੋਂ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ MP ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਹਨ. ਅਸੀਂ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਪਾਰਟੀਜ਼, ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ NDP ਹੈ, ਚਾਹੇ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਹੈ, ਲਿਬਰਲਸ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਪੀਪਲਸ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ, ਔਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੇ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕੀਤਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ. ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਏਸ਼ੀਆ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ, ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦਾ, ਨਾ ਅਪੋਜ਼ ਕਰਦਾ. ਸਾਡਾ ਪਰਪਸ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ रूबरू करिए ताकि तुसी एक एजुकेटेड डिसीजन कर सको. सो तुसी वॉच कर रहे हो प्राइम एशिया टेलीविजन, तुहाडा अपना तुहाडे लिए.